saying eating an entire bowl of powdered chalk is better than, say, sex with Kesha. While technically true, I wouldn't want to end up doing either.
Okay, people, it's finally time we make amends for that. Kesha, Ms. Sebert, let me say right here in front of my audience, God, and everyone else, I am sorry. I am sorry for making that stupid-ass joke all those years ago. It was a stupid-ass joke then, it's a stupid-ass joke now, and had I known about all the shit you were going through around the time when you were making that music, I would have kept my big fat mouth shut. If through some bizarre cosmic miracle we should ever cross paths for whatever reason, tell you what, you get one free punch. Is that fair? I feel like that's fair. One free punch, just anywhere you want to give it. Just a free sock, a nice healthy slug. That one's on the house, you know? I feel like that's fair. It's the best my goofy ass can really do. Jesus Christ, what the fuck was wrong with me? Heyo people, and welcome to this review of the 4th studio album from Kesha, Highroad. So yeah, outside of stupid jokes I made when I was a dumbass, well, more of a dumbass anyway, I've never really had the chance to talk about Kesha's music in any great detail. I mean, it's kind of obvious why. There was just no way I was going to be able to get around talking about her in any real capacity, and if I can be real, her earlier material, I'm sorry, I've just never really dug on it. Outside of, like, you know, the 1 or 2 songs in her back catalog where her genuine talents as a performer were actually allowed to shine, stuff like Your Love Is My Drug and Blow, those little fleeting glimpses we got, yeah, I'm sorry, I just do not have the stomach for early Kesha, you know? The lyrics were way too insipid.
Before I leave, brush my teeth with a bottle of Jack. Because when I leave for the night, and here's my favorite part, I ain't coming back. True that.
The production was super dated and ugly as hell. Her vocal performances were often purposefully stilted and stuttery and really annoying. She used to have a really annoying vocal cadence. And yes, I know at the time she didn't have much of a choice in those matters. And look, I sympathize with her there. I know a lot of that stuff was outside of her control, but regardless, old Kesha, to me at least, I'm sorry, it's just not very fun. My God, those are some of the fartiest synths I've ever heard. Again, you know, as we know now, a lot of stuff was going on behind the scenes with those records that I can't even begin to go into, like, really graphic detail on. But after an ugly legal battle with her former label and scuzzbag fuck barf waste of protoplasm, Dr. Luke, she was able to release her 3rd album, Rainbow. In a drastic departure from her old sound, it was a record that focused more on her actual personal struggles and showed us the real Kesha, instead of the, you know, manufactured trash pop diva she had been molded into by fuckboys and asshats. You know, since I don't think I'm gonna get a better chance here, let me just go ahead and say something I haven't really been able to elaborate much on up to this point. I fucking loved Rainbow, dude. I was still doing Rock Critic back when that dropped, and even though, you know, that album did have its rockier moments, I probably could have gotten away with reviewing it, I still wasn't really able to go into detail on it, and that's a shame because that record was fucking astounding, man. That was the album that pretty much convinced almost every hater out there that, you know, the blah 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 girl was way more than just blah blah blah. Now, most of us out here in the critical world, we're doing her real dirty. Not only did this record actually show us the more genuine and human side to Kesha, but we really got to see just a full vision of everything she was capable of. And you know what? Yeah, she was capable of a whole lot. The talent was just bursting out of that record. But now it's 3 years later, and we have Kesha's long-awaited follow-up, Highroad. Given how much of a powerhouse that last record was, and how much of a tough act it was going to be to follow, how does this stack up? Well, I'll say this. The record definitely isn't Rainbow 2, Double Rainbow, what does it mean? Oh. But, you know, I don't think that was the intention with this particular record. Kesha herself said in interviews that this album was more of an attempt to come back around and make a full pop record on her own terms this time. And you know what? There's a part of me that really respects the hell out of that, especially given how, you know, weighty and often heavy of a listen Rainbow could be at times. It's kind of ballsy to come all the way back around and do the old thing you used to do. A thing that, need I remind you, used to be presided over by a bunch of corporate overlords and shit-devouring bitch-ass fuckboys, no less. And to just spin around into their faces and say, "Hey, assholes! This bullshit you used to make me do that I hated, I'm gonna come around and do it 5 times better than all y'all could have hoped for. Also, fuck you, bad bitch, Kesha, what up?" Good on Kesha for taking no shit. I respect the fuck out of that ethos. The music she made in this particular vein, though, well, I should clarify right out of the gate. Her mission statement in making pop jams that are way better than anything she's ever produced, a lot of those poppier tracks come in at the beginning of the record, and they were released early on as singles. You know, stuff like My Own Dance, Raising Hell, Tonight, and the like. I can say that, yeah, I will definitely take these songs over the, 80% of, you know, earlier Kesha tracks out there. And again, it's great to hear this side of Kesha's sound where she isn't being restrained by needlessly shitty production or being told to act a certain way that limits her capabilities. The earlier half of this record feels like that old Kesha style, you know, with its flamboyance and its party girl lyrics and its gives no fucks attitude all around it, but all of that is bolstered by beats and hooks that are really pretty decent and performances that are genuinely pretty good. In a way, the first half of this album is kind of the best of both worlds. Those of you that are fans of Kesha's earlier work, those of you that are into that, this record is an easy sell for you. Because these first few tracks, I mean, this is about as good as that particular side of her sound can really get. But, I mean, the caveat with that is, like I mentioned up top, I'm not a big fan of her earlier sound. I mean, I know, even with the subtext we now have behind her earlier music's creation, I tried listening to old Kesha for this review, and I did my best to appreciate it for what it was and not judge it by any unfair standards, but I listened to it and I'm just like, God damn it, that's a fart beat. I can't do the fart beats, y'all. I'm happy for Kesha, but I can't do a fart beat. I'm a little conflicted. This is like the best of that old Kesha that someone like me could hope to hear, but it's just still something that's not really my style, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that the first half of this album, where most of those tracks sit, it didn't leave the best first impression on me. Again, though, I need to stress, none of it is bad. Hell, like I said, this is the best I could have probably hoped for in hearing some new Kesha that's more reminiscent of old Kesha. But I'm not a big fan of old Kesha, so, I don't know. I feel like I could have done without these tracks personally, and I feel like there are a lot of people who are in that same boat with me that will probably get that same vibe. If you aren't into old Kesha, the first half of this album isn't going to be very accommodating. I feel like that is more a matter of personal taste, though. It's just not my thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. It's just that on Rainbow, she was able to show us that she was capable of so much more as an artist. You know, that was an album of range, of color, of depth. And to hear, you know, a lot of the same party girl shtick, only in a admittedly nice rapper, that kind of felt like a bit of a regression, you know? By this point, we all know that Kesha is capable of more than just that particular sound. But thankfully, about halfway through this record, I'd say probably around like Honey or Shadow, the Kesha we got to know on Rainbow does start inching her way back into the sound. Songs like Cowboy Blues and the wonderfully understated Resentment featuring Sturgill Simpson, Rabble, and Brian Wilson of all people, use a more mellower, sort of country-tinged, acoustic guitar-driven kind of vibe to help mellow out the tone of the record a bit, and show you that the Kesha from Rainbow didn't necessarily go anywhere, and that was reassuring to hear. A little bit of Love then comes in, and it has like big horns and a kind of jaunty, sort of energetic piano riff to kind of center everything around. That was a nice little bouncer of a track, and then the album makes another shift into something even more different. Birthday Suit comes around with its chiptune frolics, which are a bit out of character for her, but I admit they're still fun in a playful and goofy kind of way. Kinky goes into this bright and colorful kind of 80s throwback kind of thing with its lush and vibrant synths. I really enjoyed that. And then Potato Song happens. And I complained about her old work being farty. Is this an oompa band? It's kind of weird. At the 3/4 mark of this album, it gets probably the most experimental we've seen Kesha get up to this point. It's just kind of all over the map in sound and tone, and then we hit BFF, and then like the real emotional daggers of the album come out. BFF is a very sweet song, another track with Rabble, I am probably not saying that right. Y'all know I mispronounce everything. That was a very sweet and tender song. I really liked that. That's followed up with the 1-2 punch of Father-Daughter Dance, another very vulnerable track about her struggles, you know, growing up without a father. That song... Ow, my heart. And the album closes very strong with Chasing Thunder. One more country-flavored, acoustic-driven kind of bop to wrap things up. And, you know, I really loved this track, and I feel like this, along with some of the other songs on this, really signaled to me that if for whatever reason the pop world or the whole pop thing doesn't work for Kesha, I feel like she could totally just start slinging that acoustic guitar full time and take up a bit of a country vibe. As crazy as that sounds, she does a good enough job on this album. I wouldn't rule it out, people. Though, yeah, in hearing me describe the various places this album goes, you kind of see my problem here, right? It's a record that, while it does have its high moments, some very high moments in fact, it is just like all over the place. I feel like Kesha had a lot of ideas for this album but could never settle on one particular tone or theme, so she just decided, okay, fuck it. I'll do everything. I'll do all of it. I will do all the things. I am Kesha, and I am all things.
True that.
While she's not particularly bad at any one thing she decides to tackle necessarily, hell, in some places she's particularly good at the ideas she decides to tackle. But, it's the lack of focus in this record. It leaves it feeling more than a touch schizophrenic and a little sloppy overall. I would definitely say this is also an album that feels lopsided, like very lopsided. The best half of this album is the latter half. And it takes a while to get going too, so if you're the kind of person who tends to jump out of an album if the first 4 or 5 tracks don't hook you in, this might be a record you bounce off of. I'm not gonna lie there. But if you do give it a chance, or if you just skip the earlier tracks if you're not feeling them, there is definitely some pretty good music in here. Good stuff that I can give a sincere recommendation to. But at the same time, this does feel like an album that attempts to do too many things at once. And you know, on the next record, I feel like just a little bit more focus and a much clearer overall vision for what she wants to create will benefit her greatly. I get the idea behind wanting to, you know, come out and give pop one big last hurrah, one big fuck you, you know. I get that, but I mean, Kesha, in my opinion at least, you're doing way better stuff these days, and you've just grown so goddamn much. I don't know, you don't need to do this, you know? Leave the past in the past, I say. You got nothing left to prove. Highroad gets 3.5 bright and happy futures out of 5. But what did you think? Were you digging all the different places and trips this album was taking, or did you feel like this record was a bit misguided? Feel free to let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you want to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell while you're at it. And until next time, I'm Crash Thompson, and I'll see you in the next video.
Super special thanks to Mo Madison, Hour of Mother, Mother Robot Reviews, and Brandon Blanford.